Basically, what I'm mostly involved in doing at the moment is researching global action policies, looking at things like COP28, looking at from like things that are more global to like more local, like for example, like farmers' protests and like policies in Europe and how that influences green transition and how that influences like developing countries, and then just trying to, because I have a background in development, so something I really focus on is like the power dynamic between, let's say, North and South, for lack of a better like way of phrasing it, and I really think that that's like very clear in like the global action agenda, like that still hasn't been resolved, and I think that countries like that are working towards like just transition and green transition, their policies affect other parts of the world, and there needs to be like more consideration for how it's all working like on a systemic level. So I just try to bring light to that in my research, and also because like in the Middle East, like investments are starting to be pumped in now for green transition and clean energy, and so there are obviously other parts of the world where there's already like more far along, and I just like I'm trying to see how that could potentially be done in a way that is like less exploitative. So for example, organizations, I'm happy they mentioned the World Bank inside, because like things like the World Bank are involved in a lot of things that are not very green, and not very good for communities. Yeah, so they're not practicing what they preach. They're doing things that like kind of contradict each other, and yet those are the ones that are like running the thing globally and developing, and like they're also kind of indirectly or directly setting the agenda for developing countries. So is that even actually effective? And so the more you stray from like local communities and you're trying to like kind of prove to things like the IMF and the World Bank that like you're working to like tick the boxes, it's not very useful. So I try to kind of dig through and find all these things and just bring them to light, and then hoping that they can reach policymakers in the future. Yeah, so I think for now we plan on addressing them through working with academia and kind of bridging the gap between academia and policy, and communicating these things. So advocacy, trying to inform the general public, and then hoping there will be like a kind of trickle up effect, but also reaching policymakers like indirectly. I think definitely like having more structured networks, a lot more partners, a lot more people working towards a specific goal, so like kind of like a community of practice around climate change. There are so many like organizations and non-for-profits working on climate change, but also because funding is challenging, a lot of the climate initiatives are funded by like foreign donors, and so there is kind of like, and then foreign donors, in order to operate in the context, have to cooperate with governmental institutions, and so there needs to be like a smart way of like navigating that, and engaging all stakeholders within kind of the scope that is available. So like working more as facilitators, I think that's a really important role that we want to have as well.